So the challenge we've got is, how do you draw detail? This is what Archicad gives you. This one here you can see doesn't have much information. On this side it looks like we've got more information because we've got this object here. What is this object? If we go Control T, you'll see that object's actually something I've put in there. It's actually a concrete block section. Let's go over here. Where did I get it from? It's an object, and it's from this area here, the Detail Element tool. Double click on that tool and it'll open a dialog box where you can start to choose what you're looking for. So if you need a timber frame section, you can use that one. If you want a concrete block and plan, you can choose that one. Do you need bricks? Do you need concrete blocks? Okay. Click, and it puts it there for you. So it's actually rotated the wrong way. I think it's E is the key, isn't it? Control E is for rotating. Click, click, 90 degrees up that way. And then I'm just going to move it to where it should go. So it should actually be, it should start. Just be careful which bit you're moving. I've got to make sure I don't select my other pieces by mistake. That one. So Control D, click there, and it needs to come in line with this. There, and Control D again, and drag that across. Now you might notice there's actually a small piece missing. That's because that's the way it's designed. There's actually a little piece of mortar at the bottom. And then I can grab that. I think I can pull that down using that mode. Pull it down to, where's my concrete? I think my concrete's there. And that's one of my pieces. So that's my concrete. So let's go into how do we draw detail. So this technique of using these objects, that one and the other one, which I quite like using this frame one, these ones work really well. I'm going to set that to 90 degrees. Okay, and click to place it. There it is there. So that means I don't have to then rotate it later on. So I'm going to do the Control D, click there, click there. Don't forget this actually should be projecting. So Control D and just move it across 6 mil. I always make mine 12. And the angle of 0, enter. And so that's where it should really be located there. So what about when we come to actually do our details like this detail reference? Detail tool, click to start, click to finish, and click for the placement of our label. When we do that, it should have created one of these. So if you want to create a detail, you can just click here and go New Independent Detail, and you can create one. Let's go New Independent Detail. Let's call it a foundation. If you click on Create, it'll actually just create an area for you to draw your detail. You see here, these details here, these are all independent details. So if you look at one of those, that's an independent detail. This is another one, and so on. So each of these is an independent detail, and you have to create an independent detail in order to place that on your layouts as an independent detail on your drawings. If you don't place this as an individual detail on your drawings, you can't put an individual label or connect it to your model. So this is the one we've just made. It's called Eve Detail. So I'm going to look at my detail settings, and this is not an Eve detail, it's my foundation detail. Yeah, that's better. Now I've told you guys in the past what you should do is to select all this information and drag a copy of it across. So Control D, click, let's move it over here, because I don't want to upset anything that might be in my model. Don't forget the Control key will make a copy, and now I've got a copy of all that information. And now I can start mucking around with it. So I can go back and I can delete. You notice that these are now individual components. So that's an individual piece of the block. It's the wall of the blockwork. This is a polygon that goes all the way around my footing. This should be hard fill. This is supposed to be my sand blinding, and that's supposed to be my insulation. So now I can start to add information to this. I can change line weights. I can delete bits that I don't want. If I don't want to see that, I can delete it. If I want to clip it, don't forget you can click here and you can use things like this one, the minus sign, and I can click here and there, and I can cut that out around my detail. So you can cut stuff around. If you don't want to see it up here, you can also get this one, offset the edge, bring that edge down to here. So you can do all that kind of stuff. Don't forget the line weights. Now when you start looking at this is soil, it's given this kind of line here, it's got an outline. These are the pens for it. This is the pen for the middle. This is the pen for the background. And we need to make sure it's got a line going around it, and it may not. I think this is the contour pen here. You can also improve the quality of these details by drawing extra lines. So we know that we've got a line that comes from here, and the height of that line should be, so I'm going to go Control D. What's the height of that? 225. So that's the maximum height of unfinished ground. But our polygon is here. So we could click on that corner there. We can just move that corner up to there, move this one up to there, and that'll be our unfinished ground. That's a ground line, which we can now get rid of. This is our ground line. We're going to make that solid. Don't forget to check the line weights. Now, the problem that you've got is that you check the line weights and you say, I want that to be 0.5 of a millimeter. But then you go and print it with one of these printing pen sets. And when you do that, it changes the line weight. Now, luckily, I've chosen one that didn't change, but it's possible that you choose one and it does change. So it might be better for you to work in a view which has already got the printing set. So you need to now start putting the information in that you want. Here, you might notice that that's quite close to the concrete. I'm going to go Control D. I'm going to drag that up by 2 millimeters. Why 2 millimeters? Because 1 millimeter away, I'm going to create a polyline. So I'm going to draw a polyline that's going to start here, start there, go along my concrete, and it's going to stop there. So 2 clicks, that should have created a line. Where's it gone? I'll draw a single line. I'll draw it from there to there, and then I'm going to drag that line down. So click on that line, Control D to drag it, -1 millimeter, so it's there. This is my DPC. So here again, check the line weight, make sure you've got a good line weight for that. Make sure that when you print it, it comes out the way you want. This should be dot dashed. You might have to change that to a smaller dash, a smaller dot, so that it prints nicely. Down here, we've got this currently set to 1 to 25. If we're doing a detail, we probably should set it to 1 to 5. And that's going to affect things like our line style. You'll notice there my line style is now different. If I change to one of these close dashed ones, so I've got a 2 millimeter gap between these two, 1 millimeter gap there, and that's my bottom plate. We need to put some annotation on. So I'm going to use my label tool. There's my label, and it's got the hot link at the moment. So let's drag that over here. And I want to move that part to there. That's my bottom plate. Make sure they line up. And instead of saying hot link and element, I'm going to call this 90 by 45 H 3.2 bottom plate. Enter, or just click away from everything. There it is. So that's my bottom plate. If I drag a copy of this up, so let's go Control D, drag that up, Control key, that should make a copy, and then I can grab hold of the dot on the end, and I can line that up and stick it there, and this is my cladding. So this might be 150 linear weatherboard on 20mm return key ventilated cavity, and back to my selection tool, back to my arrow tool. So that's my ventilated cavity, and you can just move that arrow to the right location. Now that isn't actually the right cavity. You need to draw something that looks like that. So let's go back to here. I need to have a piece of timber. So I need to have a look through here, maybe some of the core elements like this one here, the CI Tools timber member. Okay, click to place it. There it is. That's my piece of timber. It's probably a good idea to look at this piece of timber and start thinking about which direction does it go. Do I need to rotate it? Do I need to pull these sides in? What do I need to do to it? Because if that's going to be my cavity, I should really have it there. That's my bottom piece. If it's linear weatherboard, then actually these are vertical. But you might also have another type of cladding which needs them to be horizontal. So you need to put in the right sort. So that's my cavity. I need a piece of linear weatherboard. Let's have a look. We got any walls? Have we got any cladding? Doors and windows, exterior trims, symbols, reinforcing, fastenings, walls. Oh, how about this one? Okay, so 90 degrees. Have we got configuration here? I'll bevel back, shiplapped, rusticated, or V-lap. Closest we've got is a bevel back weatherboard, but you can put in the sizes that you would have for linear. And it's created that for me. I need to mirror that, and I've forgotten what my mirror keyboard shortcut is. So if I go back to that tool, click here, there's mirror. So I've got that going the right way. So that one I can get rid of now. I can get rid of this line. So get rid of the lines you don't need, and then put this where you do need it. So Control D, click, and place it there. Don't forget there has to be a distance between these, 50. So the easiest way to do it is if you start with it here, vertical, and then you go Control D, drag it down, then you can go 50, and there it is, it's 50 millimeters below. So let's pull that arrow back to there. Do we have insulation? So we're going to do Control D, drag that up there. And this is my insulation. What's your insulation? 2.4. It's a trade name, so it's black, pearl. So does that make sense so far? So you need to do a lot of work on this to start to bring up the quality that you need. Don't forget that board, that bottom plate should be projected out. What implications does that have over the location of your framing plan in relation to your foundations? If I go back to my floor plan, so I'm in my roof plan at the moment. Let's go back to my ground floor plan. There's my ground floor plan. Let's go plan framing. Floor framing. So that's my floor framing plan. So let me dimension that. So from this point here, I don't want it to there and to there. So that's my wall framing. Where's my foundation framing? So let's go back to plan foundations. That's my foundation. This should be my slab. So that point there should be my slab, edge of my slab. That should be the other edge of my slab there. Double click and place it. Should they line up or should they be different? They should be different. They should be how much different? That's 12 each side, so it should be 24 millimeters different between the two of them. Okay, so let me go back to my section. So that's my section. That's got a detail reference. Here's the detail that we've been working on, which is this one here. And now what I need to do is I need to zoom into this, and I need to then create a saved view. So I've zoomed in. There's my detail reference. Let's save as a view, and we can give it a name, which is 1 to 5, layer combination all. The name is the foundation plan. The reference is D52, and I do current zoom and create. So now when I go to my layouts, I should have details somewhere, foundation details. I've got a layout sheet for foundation details, and I now have a saved view called D52 foundation. Don't forget to create a folder for details. Details should be stored in the detail folder. If they're not stored in the detail folder, you're not using good techniques. So that's the one I created. Drag that in. Here it is here. How much do I want to see? Don't forget you can crop this back. Don't crop the text away. That's not good. You can crop the top down. You can make this lower if you need to. It's got to show all the information you want. Now, if 1 to 5 is too large, go back to your saved view. Go back to your view settings and change that to 1 to 10. Now I've lost it. I'll put that in again. Put in the foundation detail, and it's now 1 to 10 scale. So now what I can do is I can stretch it, make sure everything's in, stretch it down. So this at 1 to 10, you can get the entire detail in. When we go back to our detail here, we'll find that our detail is 1 to 5 still, but if you double click on your saved view, it'll restore the view back to 1 to 10. Now your text can be set to the correct size for 1 to 10. So what font size do we want? 2 millimeter, 2 millimeter, 2 millimeter. And so you can copy those bits of text around. What's happened to my section? Because I've now placed that onto my layout, my detail reference is automatically updated. And you can move those to a good place so that they're in the right location, so that they read well. You're going to have a lot of these details. Make sure you've got them in a place that's easy to read, where you can still put your text around. So let's just go back over some of those things. We've got our foundation details. That's now detail number 1. If I delete that one, it'll delete one of my details away. Don't forget, I use Control D a lot for this, just for dragging those to the right place. Foundation detail 1 there. There's some stuff to clean up. You can see I need to put notes. I need to clean up that dotted line running around it. If I go back to foundation detail here, that's the dotted line running around. Let's get rid of that. Put in the information that you need. Okay, so what if it was a window detail? Let's go back to our sections. We've got a window. Here it is here. And you'll notice that when we want to do a window, there's actually very little information here from Archicad that's going to help me to draw my window. So let's go back to the one that I started. I started with a blank one. I created a blank one. Here, this one I called foundation, I think, is completely empty. And we'll change this one and we'll call this one, let's go to our settings. Yeah, there. It says save and place on a layout. I want to rename my detail. So this is 53 and this is my window head. Window head. So what scale do we want this to be? We want this to be 1 to 10. And what are we going to start with? So what do you know? Let's start with things that you do know. Double click on this tool. We know we've got some timber. What size is our timber? It's 45 wide. How high is it? 140, because it might be a lintel. Click to place it. There it is there. And I rotated this one. So you'll notice that it's 140 by 45. Just 45. Let's get rid of that one. So we've got 2 or 3 of these. So there's 2 of those. How wide's your frame? If it's 140 frame, then you must have 3 of these, mustn't you? So Control D, Control key again, you can create 3 of them. One of them is going to be framing. So what you can do with these is you can open this up, Control T, and we should be able to set that to be, where's the non-continuous? Timber blocking. So now it's timber blocking. What goes above here? Quite often, don't forget, you can just draw lines. So where's my line tool? I want to click there to start. Line tool, click there to start. I've got a line that goes up that way. I've got a line that goes up that way. Those 2 lines shouldn't be dashed like that. They should be solid. Let's make them solid lines. What do we have to go in there? It should be insulation. So have we got anything that looks like insulation? How about that one? The distance is 140. Click. Let's do that again. Distance 140. Click. And click to place it. So that's got my insulation going. It's quite long. You might want to get rid of some of that insulation or make it shorter. So get rid of that one and bring this one down. Because it only needs to be a small portion for that window, doesn't it? Have you imported the details from the manufacturer? You need to import some of the details from the manufacturer. And if you haven't done that already, you need to look them up. So let's look up Altus Windows, Altus Windows Systems, Home. We're going to look for anything that helps us. So we're going to look for specifiers. So for specifiers, let's open that. So specifiers, CAD resources, that'll be a good one to go to. Let's choose that one. We want DWF or PDF. So we want one of these if we can. And you'll notice that when you get one of these, it's got a lot of information already in it for you. So it's got flashings and things. So we're going to look for this one that goes underneath the soffit. There's the soffit board. How about that one? It looks like it could be a goer. So let's DWG that one, and it's downloaded the DWG file. Okay, so the DWG file, what we want is we want to know where that DWG file, so show in my Finder, there it is there. Drag and drop that into Archicad and place it. So that might be a good way to get started because it's got a lot of information there already, but it might be better for me to just leave it as it is. So that's got quite a lot of information that you need already. I don't like the look of these bits here, so I'm going to, can I ungroup that? Explode into current view, and I'm not going to keep the originals, and OK. So now what I should have is, now that I've exploded it, it should be a series of individual pieces. So there's an arrow in here somewhere, which is this angle here. That V shape, it's actually an arrowhead. Now what I've got to do is find out where it goes and delete it. Okay, got rid of that. Tidy up some of these lines to see what they are. This is my flashing. Make sure it's got a good line weight. Something heavy so that it shows up. And don't forget, you can also do things like on-screen true line weights. So you can actually get an idea of what the line weight's going to look like. So you're missing information here. You're missing whether this has got the right kind of jam liner. whether it's got the right kind of timber here. Do we need to get rid of those and put some of my other timber in? The insulation's missing. Is your building wrap there? Is your air seal there? I often get rid of these things like the nails because I don't want to see the nails. You have to tell someone that they're going to put those in place. And I need to go back to that mode, I think. So let's get rid of that one. And get rid of that one. Get rid of these arrows. I don't like those arrows either. You can see that all over the place. The continuous air seal, 2 bits of text. It's going to be a pain. We're going to need to make that into 1 piece of text. And don't forget that the continuous air seal needs a rod backing, and you've got to say that. If you zoom in, that's the rod backing, and that's the air seal, just this part here. So we can get rid of all of that text down there. And we've got some of the text we can start working with. So you can start working with that text. You can then start to use that as a detail. Don't forget we're going to save this. So I don't know if I've saved this already. So I'll save this. I'll save as view, current zoom. And this is window head, create. Now as a save view, don't forget that save view has to be put into your details folder. Then when we go back to our layouts, we've got window details, got a page for those. We need to put a save view of our window head in here. And there's our window head detail. We're going to bring that side across. And we want to bring that side across. Bring this one down. Now at 1 to 10, you can see it's too small. Maybe this particular detail should have been 1 to 5. So we can go to our layout settings. And we can change that to 1 to 5. Sorry, back to this one. Right click, view settings should be 1 to 5. Okay. Now I find it's easier sometimes to get it right the first time, and then if you make a change like that, just drag it back on and do it again. So I think at 1 to 5 it's nicer. But at 1 to 5, your text, I don't know if you noticed, but your text size is now strange. It doesn't read well. So the text needs to be put back on there. So although you can get quite a lot of information from a manufacturer, it's not perfect. You can't just use it straight off. Let's go back to our website, Altus, and we'll get rid of that one. We're going to look for a sill. These are still window heads, window jam. Let's download the PDF. Okay, download the PDF, and we're going to show in folder. I'm going to drag the PDF into this now. So I've dragged that PDF straight into my layout. And you could do that, and then you could adjust the view. But if you do that, it's not a detail, and it doesn't show up here as a detail, and it doesn't show up here as a detail. So you can't, well, you can do it, but it's not a great way to do it. So I'm going to create a new independent detail. This is my window jam. So I'm going to drag and drop that back in again. So that's a PDF that I've copied in. So I'll get rid of that. So there's my PDF. Can I stretch it? Bring that in. Jam detail. So you can use that as a PDF. You can't edit the PDF. Remember that it's a PDF. It's bound up as one object. You can't edit it straight away. But we're going to go 1 to 10. And zoom in. We're going to save this as a view. Save as a view. This is my window jam. 1 to 10. Let's create that. So now back to my layout, window details, back to my saved view, make sure it's in details, and then let's drag that onto there, and we'll get rid of that one. So why is that the wrong size? That's my PDF, is that right? Set the scale at 1 to 10 first. Now we'll get our desktop. Was it on the desktop? Now let's drag that in. You notice it's bigger this time? Because I set the scale at 1 to 10 to start with, when I imported the PDF, it was the right size. I don't want to pull that. Come on, PDF. I want to drag you across. That's the one. Down. Drag that one up. Drag that across. Okay, so now let's go back to our view. That's our page there. What do we want to do? We want to get our saved view of our jam. Drag that in. How's that? What's missing from our, if we use a PDF, what's missing? Building wrap, rigid air barrier. It's missing. Insulation's missing. Notes are missing. So be careful of that. So what happens when we started from scratch? Let's go back to our window head. I think it's the window head that I started with. So the window head, we've started from scratch here. We want some of this information, but not all of it. You'll find that there's a series of objects here that you can copy. Don't forget to use commands like group. There's actually several objects there. So there's one object there. There's another object which is the inside. There's another object here which is that part. Don't forget you can use your group command. So I would probably grab that, all of the stuff here, and then go, is it edit, grouping, and then say group. Don't forget if you're going to group objects, turn off suspend groups, otherwise you'll just be moving bits. So I can pull all of this across. Where does it go? It goes in here somewhere. And then you can put your pieces of timber. You can put your RAB board on. If you've got a rigid air barrier, you can put the rigid air barrier in. You can put your timber in. So we've got pieces like this timber here. We'll make that 0 degrees. It's probably 150 at least. 19 high. And it's that corner there I want to use. And then I should be able to click here. And it puts my piece of timber in for me. And this piece of timber, don't forget, you can also choose what kind of timber is it. Is it continuous? Is it dressed timber? So it gets the little wiggly lines. If you need that to be longer, you can stretch it using one of these ones. Elevate, no, mirror, rotate. You might have to type in the length that you want. And if you've got jib board on there as well, you can actually have a look. Shall we type in jib, see if we got jib? Didn't find any. I wonder if I can use a piece of this. Horizontal laminate, continuous, timber blocking. Oh yeah, I could use a piece of that. So I can put that's my jib board. I just need to rotate it. Control D, just move it off by 1 millimeter, just to give that tiny little bit of separation between them. So design, where was it? View, on-screen options, turn off my true line weight. So it's just a little bit there. That's only 10 millimeters wide. You can figure out the distance between these. I think I can grab that purple dot. That's the one. I can grab that purple dot and I can stretch it out so they fit there. Back to this tool. Do we want to have dressed timber? What size is our dressed timber? I want another piece of timber. So this time I also want it to be dressed. I want it to be 19, I think, by 40. By 40. Using that corner there as my insertion point. Go to the middle, click. It's my architrave. Sometimes you're just going to have to draw shapes using things like the circle or the spline to draw stuff in. Don't forget when you come to do your timber, sorry, your building wrap, click there, double click there to finish. That should have created that shape. And then you can go offset all edges and offset it by 2 millimeters. And now you've got your building wrap turning in the corner. We want another one of those, don't we? So we're going to go offset all edges again, hit the control key, 2 millimeters again, and this is the other one, which is the so there it is. That's that 50 millimeter tape that you put in the corners. Give it a different line weight, give it a different line style. Don't forget to annotate it. So let's go back to our drawing, which was our window details. So this one's been updated. What we need to do is we need to find out where that thing is. We're going to use that side there, get rid of that bit, bring that down. So there I've imported some of the information, but I've drawn it from scratch. That's my own one. Get rid of that. So drag a copy, put in there. So I've got my window head, my window jamb. I can start to put these together. They should have numbers. And so on here, I can then connect. So what I also need to do is I've got a window head detail. I do need to create one of these and connect it to that window head detail. I haven't done this for a while, so it might. Detail tool. So from there to there, click, and that one wants to be, so it's actually created a detail here, but what I'd really like to do is to link this to a different one. So this is going to be a linked marker, and I'm going to link it to window head. So that's now linked to my window head detail, which is that one there, which I placed on that layout. If I renumber this, so let's look at our settings for this. I think I've got it here for by layout. If I do it by custom, and I'll go H01, it's renumbered it here, and it should also renumber it in my section. So this marker here is not linked to this one. It's linked to the one. So instead of creating a new detail area like this one here, what I've done is I've linked it to something I've placed on my layouts.